Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Sports Scene here on WLCS TV. My name's Tim Alcorn. I'm with WEOL Radio, and each and every week here on the program we like to talk to somebody in the Lorain area about high school sports or whatever the case may be, certainly something involved in sports. And this week my guest is somebody that's making his debut on Sports Scene. Certainly glad to have him along for the very first time. He's the head basketball coach of the Lorain Catholic Spartans, Jim Lawhead, and of course the Spartans are enjoying an outstanding campaign so far this year. As we tape the program, Lorain Catholic with a sparkling 16-1 record. Of course, as you folks watch the program at home, they're heading down the home stretch in the regular season and getting ready for tournament play. But it certainly is a pleasure to have Jim with us on the program. Jim, welcome to Sports Scene, and obviously a lot of positive things to talk about with your basketball club. Let's start off with the fact that you've had so much success this year, 16-1, and not taking anything away from your basketball team, but did you envision this type of season way back in November?
Tim, not really. As you well know, we lost all 5 starters from our ball club of a year ago that went to the regionals that were 21-3. And when you lose all 5 starters, you wonder, how things are going to go. We were looking forward with anticipation to this club because we wanted to see, how we could do. It would be a challenge. But if you would have asked me that question, I would have said, I don't know what I would have said in terms of wins and losses. I think I would have said, we're hopeful that we'll be competitive, and we'll give you that kind of a line. But, I thought we could have a pretty good club.
Then why the success? Why has this team been able to do so well?
Well, I think we've adopted a little different philosophy this year than we've had in the past because of the players we have. I think with the influence of my son Matt, who's an assistant coach, and Chris Kelly before him, that we've kind of shifted our focus a little more defensively. We've gone to the bench a little more than we have in the past, at least in the past years that I've coached. And, I think we've got some role players that this year accepted the situation and said, this is what we have to do to be successful, and they've done it. And I think by playing together and filling their roles, we've been successful.
Well, I want to ask you about the change in philosophy, because for all the years you've been around, and I've been around a few myself, if you talk to people about Lorain Catholic basketball, it's always been, well, they go about 6, maybe 7 deep, and they've got the one star player, and he really shines, and they like to get up and down the floor. This year, as you mentioned, it's an entirely different type of basketball. You go a little bit deeper, scrambling defense, players rotating in and out. Why the evolution?
Well, I think you're never too old to learn and to make progress and to change. And I think, as I said, Chris Kelly came aboard. Mike Horn really before him, and then Mike went to Firelands. And I never had an assistant before. And I turned the defense over to Mike Horn. He was there a year. Then Chris Kelly came, and for about 3 years, and I turned the defense over to him. And I'd never had an assistant. I didn't know how I could deal with that. But as I got older, I felt that practice, the 2-hour practices were tough, and I said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a commitment to do it. We have to step our program up defensively. And they did a great job of laying the groundwork. And then Matthew came aboard, and it's like, Dad, we've got to go to the bench more. We've got, if we want to press and run, we've got to go to the bench more. And I says, okay, fine, we'll go to the bench more. And it was just the talking and the discussions in our staff meetings and our private meetings that convinced me that this was the way to go. This club in particular was a good club to do it,
right?
Because we don't have the 3-point shooters, we don't have the great athletes or the very good, quote, basketball athletes. We've got hard-working kids, good players, hard-working players. So we had to do things a little differently, and I just think those guys motivated me and convinced me to change direction a little bit.
And I imagine that would be a great selling point to your kids as well, that when you bring them in for the opening workouts and so forth, to sit down and say, hey, look, everybody here is going to get some playing time. Everybody's going to be involved, and you've always got to be ready to get up and get off the bench and get into a ball game. That keeps them even more alert and even more into the ball game than if they know that only 6 or 7 guys are going to play.
I think that's the case, and I can see it in terms of our substitutions. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's not some of our players that aren't really happy with the situation. You know, everybody wants to A, start,
right,
or A, be the star, B, start, C, come off the bench and get playing time. And we still have, and I wouldn't expect anything different from kids to say, hey, I want to be in the lineup. But I've noticed this ball club, when we rotate them in and out, they run in, they run out. They don't have a lot of time to think about the fact that, oh, gee, I'm being taken out of the game, because they know they're going to get back in the game.
Jim, let's talk personnel, because as you mentioned, all 5 starters from last year's tremendously successful team are gone. But, it seems as though guys have just stepped into their roles this year and picked up where they left off. I imagine the 2 players that most of our viewers are familiar with and have heard about and read about, Ron Mantini and Al Drummond, these 2 guys really seem to have stepped into leadership roles for this basketball team, even as not really underclassmen, but as juniors.
Right. Well, Ron, of course, and Al both played last year as sophomores.
Right.
They were the 6th and 7th men off the bench. I don't know that I got Al enough playing time, and thinking back on it, to warrant that. Maybe he should have played both, but that's hindsight. But Ron, Ron played JVs as a freshman, and we moved him up last year. But he broke his ankle before the season. He missed a lot. Wasn't really in shape until the second half of the season. But the second half of the season last year, Ron came on and on and on, and probably was playing, even though he wasn't starting, probably was playing 20 minutes a game by the time it was said and done. And this year, he's just moved on, stepped up. He's got stronger. He played AAU ball in the summer with the Stacy. He went to Oklahoma City. Right. And he really works at the game. He got on the weights. He doesn't look when you look at him, but he is stronger than, some people think he is. And he has good quickness. He can set and shoot the 3. We don't shoot a lot of them, but, he can do that. So he's had a great year, obviously, and he gets to the foul line a lot and so forth. Al's had a fine year, a little inconsistent, had a little down period in the middle. I think he's coming back now. A great jumper, a great leaper, good jump shooter, quick, and a quiet, unassuming young man that just works hard all the time. And, Al's a credit to our program.
I remember last year during tournament time, that seemed to be the time that Ron really stepped his game up. For whatever reason it was, or what transpired within him to have it develop like that. But I remember thinking, this is when this young man is really coming of age, and as you mentioned, it just really carried over into this year.
Yes, the game that really stands out is the district final against Oberlin, when we had the cancellation and we came back and played on Monday. And Ron had a 22-point night and a baseline drive dunk in the last 40 seconds of the game, when we came from 7 down to win it. I still don't know how we won it. We were lucky. I don't know. Maybe it was a leprechaun in my pocket for St. Patrick's Day. But Ron had a great game. But he was still inconsistent. He'd have that great game, but he was a sophomore, and there was still that inconsistency. This year, I think he's taken it to the next level, and he's got more consistent all along.
Let's talk about some other players. Chris Deray, one of your point guards, along with Eric Slapik. He stepped in when Chris went down for a while, so now you've got a nice 1-2 punch there where you can interchange them, alternate them in and out, and really not lose anything.
Well, our point guard situation was of great concern going into the season. We had Derek Thomas, who played JVs last year as a junior, because Brian Burry was a fixture, and Derek, the left-handed point guard, and he was pretty much going to be the point guard this year, and as a matter of fact, started our first 4 games. But then he suffered a torn tendon in his hand, had surgery. We lost him for the year. Chris Deray, the sophomore, came up last year late in the season on the JVs. Really a quick little kid. Really, a lot of quickness. Good guard, small, but pushes the ball like we like, and gets rid of it to the open man. I think that Chris is going to have a great career. He gets mono. He goes down after game 5. So now we don't have a point guard. So we had to make a decision as to whether to
I think that's when you asked me to suit up.
Yeah, you want to play? I had 3 or 4 guys at school. They were ready to step right in there. As Rick Svott said he had a year's eligibility left, and everybody wanted to get in there. I think they just were talking. But we either had to move Brian Stransky, our captain and wingman, to the point, which we didn't want to do because he was our offensive threat on the wing, or go with Eric Schlapak, who was a junior wingman. So we just decided to say, hey, Eric, you're the point guard. Chris is out. Derek's down. It's your, and he really didn't want, no one wanted the job on our team. You guys all wanted it because they thought if we play point guard, we're going to go down. So nobody really wanted the job. But Eric took over game 6 and stepped in, struggled a little, and Brian helped him, and we worked at it. And he really came along, and he played fine basketball. Chris finally came back, a couple games ago. So now we have them both, and Eric really in that period of time really improved dramatically. So now we're back with Chris and Eric, and it's a good situation for us.
You mentioned Brian Stransky. Here's a guy that you see his name in the box score every Saturday morning, and he does a lot of the things that he doesn't get a lot of press written-wise and the glowing things said about him on the radio, but he's just a steady ball player. Game in, game out, he's there and he does the job for you.
Well, Brian has he's right here because he got cut as a freshman, and he didn't give up. And here's something that all the young kids out there can think about, that sometimes you have a disappointment, you don't make the team, and he stuck at it. He practiced in the summer, he got on the weights. He made the JV team as a sophomore and was maybe 8th, 9th, 10th man. Didn't play a lot. As a junior with our club last year, of course, he was on the JVs again, but he started and played all the time. As a matter of fact, we brought him up for the tournaments. He had dressed with us during the course of the year, but rarely got in. Right. But it was that Oberlin game when Brian Burry fouls out. Actually, it was Era that called the timeout, but Brian Burry fouls out, and we go with Brian Stransky, and now it's down 7, 1:38 to go. They're going to the line, and we lose Burry. And here's Brian Stransky say, okay, kid, go in there and save us, right? Bring the ball up the court against this defensive team. And Brian went out there, and my recollection is that if there was 6 possessions in that last 1:38, he brought it up all 6 times, and he got it across the timeline, and he got it to somebody, and we won that game, and that made him. But this year, he's our captain. I think he's the glue that holds us together. He's our leader. He averages only about maybe 13 points a game. I don't even know. Right. But he's a strong player. He can hit the crucial 3. He can make the big foul shot. I have nothing but great things to say about Brian, because I really believe if it wasn't for Brian, we wouldn't be where we are.
It is. It's a great success story. Speaking of success, again, just a tremendous season so far this year. 2 of the last 3 years you've been at the regional level. Is it to a point now where it just starts to perpetuate itself that, obviously you've been around a long time and you've had, runs like this where you've had teams that string together tremendous campaigns, but the team looks at the last couple of years and now they expect to go out and win basketball games and expect to be very successful?
I think winning breeds winning. Winning breeds confidence. If you win a game, you come back to win a game, you feel when it gets in a tough situation that if you hold together and you be positive that you can pull it out. I think you have to be that way. Some teams it's almost like they're afraid to lose. They play, they get conservative down the stretch. I recall the other night just preaching stay positive, keep attacking the basket offensively, don't get conservative. We still have to we have to score points.
Right.
So I think, games like Oberlin last year where you're down 7, you rally to win. This year we were behind at Amherst in the opener. We were behind at Lorain High. We were behind against Tobin 3 of the first 5 games. But I think that experience, especially let's say with Ron, Al, and Brian, that they know, hey, it isn't over until the gun goes off. And, certainly there are some games where you say, well, we're 20 down with a minute to go, it's over. But when you're in that stretch, with the 3-point shot and a potential foul here or foul there to stop the clock, anything can happen. So, I think that's true with our kids. I don't think they're going to feel like just go out and win any game, but I think they have the confidence to put themselves in a position to win the game.
Let me ask you, I know once you get to tournament time, the whole thing's a crapshoot, but how good is this basketball team? I mean, how far do you think they can go?
You know, I really don't know how good we are. All I know is this, that we've stepped up and beat every team we played this year. And what can I say? We've beat every team that we played this year until today. We still have a ways to go. But all I can say about our kids is they've beaten everybody. They found a way to win, and they surprise me. And I think they're confident. And I think that if we play within ourselves, as we've been playing, if we try to get outside of ourselves, you know, we won't be able to get it done. You know, if we stay within ourselves, I think that, you know, we have every opportunity to win the next game.
Of course, again, as we tape this, you're 16-1. As the folks watch it at home, another one will be in the book, and maybe by the end of the week, the regular season will be completed. 3 tough ball games for you, one that'll really get you ready for tournament time, though. There's
no question. We go to Canton Central Catholic. They have an outstanding ball club. I'm not sure their record. I think it's something like 14-3, let's say. But they've got a great guard in Fine Rock and a great perimeter shooter by the name of Murphy that's about 6'4" and can go outside. Playing on that little court in Canton is going to be a real challenge. But that's what we need. You know, we need those challenges. Right. Saturday, Cleveland, Lincoln West. Coach Hicks always has an extremely competitive city team. And then next Friday we go to Cleveland Central. They're 17-1. They're rated in the state. It's going to be, I think, them and Benedictine in the Cleveland area. So our next 3 games are great. They're going to be great challenges for us.
I want to ask you about the tournament because I'm going to grill you again about this situation where you went up on the brackets. As we tape this show, it's the day after the tournament draw, which was held over at Elyria High. Again, the way the brackets are set up, you elected to play on a Wednesday, and then if you win that ball game, you move into the district semi on a Monday. And you and I were at the tournament draw. You asked me what I thought. I don't know why, but I was thinking you'd go Tuesday, Friday, which is the normal routine of the kids. And turns out your wife Barb agrees with me. You should have gone with Tuesday, Friday, but you're going to go right at it on Wednesday. You want to get out there and play.
Well, Matt, you know, Matt and I talked about it, and Matt analyzes everything, you know, and that's good. You know, Matt analyzes everything, like I used to do 25 years ago. Now it's like I just go on a line and let's get it on.
Let's play.
But he has 5 or 6 reasons, and I says, well, when Tim asked me why, what do I say? And he says, just say, why not?
That's a wide open tournament, though, over there. I mean, obviously, you're the favorite at 16-1, as you well should be in the top seed, but a lot of other teams that are sort of bunched in there at the 9 or 10 win type of caliber. So anybody, you know, could come out of there as far as your competition is concerned.
Well, you know, tournament time, you know, and I know all bets are off. You know, we were the favorite 2 years ago, and Columbia beat us, and we were the #1 seed. You know, and last year we were the #1 seed, and Oberlin almost beat us. And matter of fact, we were quite fortunate to get to the game because Elyria Catholic, down 1, had the ball with the last shot. They score, we're out. So you just never know what's going to jump up and get you in the tournaments. In the regular season, you can get upset, so to speak. You can have a bad night. You can come back Friday, or you lose Friday, come back Saturday, get back on track. Not the case in the tournament. I think it's always a challenge. I don't care who you play. You go out and play that first game. I don't care what the record is. As long as I've been around, I can go back to the history of St. Mary's, Lorain Catholic basketball that Jim Lawhead coached, and I can find a tournament game where we went in the top 1 or 2 seeds and lost to a 3-15 team, and it was there, and it happens, and you know, you just have to guard against it and go out and be as prepared as you can be.
Jim, you mentioned the fact that Matt's now with you as an assistant coach. Talk a little bit about that. What's it like to have your son sitting right next to you on the bench? Do you look at him during the game as your son or as your assistant coach?
Sometimes I look at him as my son, and sometimes as an assistant coach.
Depends if you agree with him or not.
Depends on the situation. No, it's fun. You know, there's a lot of pride there. You know, Barb and I have 4 sons, and with 7 children. 6 of the 7 played basketball. The 3 girls played at Lorain Catholic. Only one of the boys didn't play, but he's a top fan. Jimmy played in 78, 79, and he coached our freshman team 1 year. And then Matthew decided that he was going to go to college, and he went to Bowling Green and get his teaching degree. And he's the one that said, "I want to be a coach. You know, I want to be a teacher/coach, and this is what I want to do." So when he got out of college, he went to Vermilion as a teacher of that internship, and he came aboard to help us, and he was our JV assistant. And then Bart Hobart went to Wellington, so Matt, we moved him up to the varsity, or to the head JV job. And he went 16-4, 19-1 back-to-back. And then this year, when Chris Kelly had to leave for another job commitment, Matt said, I'd like to do double duty. You know, I want to do assistant to you, and I'll take the defense like Chris. I said, fine. And I just asked him, I said, you know, if you're going to do both, you've got to make this commitment. It's going to be maybe a rough haul. And he said he could do it. It's worked out well. No, I find it interesting. He's really committed to the game. He goes to camps. He goes to clinics. He goes scouting to see other teams. He's already seen Loudonville and a couple teams that are in our tournament,
right.
Which is a great relief for me because, quite frankly, you know, at 56, you know, these 2-hour practices, they get old. You know, I go out for an hour and I want to go home. So, Matt, you take the second hour. Or in the case of Chris, you don't like to make the Loudonville trips anymore. You know, not that you won't, not that you shouldn't. But when you have someone you have great confidence in to do that, and he thinks like you, and he analyzes, it's a great plus for us.
Do you find that his coaching philosophy is much the same as yours, or is he coming from a different age? Or like this year, where he said, you know, Dad, we got to change a couple of things here. We got to, you know, make adjustments. Or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that as I watch practice, some of the times it's okay, Matt, it's your practice. That he runs the drills that we've been running for 25 years. But he also has some new, interesting, innovative drills that he's learned. So there's some of the old and some of the new, and that's really good, you know. Like I said about this, you know, going to the bench more, substituting more, you know, getting people rested for the stretch run. And I will admit, as we mentioned before, that I was more a 5-man coach, a 6th man, and you know, you got the star, you leave him in, and you know, he plays 32 minutes. Ron Mantini doesn't play 32 minutes, but he's going to be fresh in the 4th quarter. That didn't take a lot of arm twisting or discussion, really. I just felt, hey, sounds good to me. You know, let's try it. You know, and it's worked. So you can't argue with that kind of success.
How much has the game changed? I mean, in the years that you've been around, you know, the court's still 94 feet or 84, depending upon where you're playing. The basket's 10 feet high and everything else. But how much has it changed in its essence and how coaches coach and how players play?
Well, I think it's changed and it hasn't changed. Basketball is still basketball. I think, you know, it's changed. There's been some dramatic changes and some gradual changes over the 32 years I've coached. I think one of the big changes, obviously, in the last few years is the three-point shot. You know, the three-point shot just changes things. You get a couple three-point shooters out there that are really good at the three-point shot, you're in trouble.
Right.
You know, they start lighting up 2 or 3 or 4 threes, and all of a sudden the scoreboard starts going off like, you know, like crazy. So, plus it can bring a team back at the end of a game. You know, last year we had three-point shooters, but you can also live and die with a three-point shot. You know, I think it really hurt us in a couple games last year. The first game that we lost to Amherst, and the last game we lost in the regionals, that, you know, we shot too many threes and didn't make enough of them. But then on the other hand, you look at it and say, well, those threes got you there in a lot of other games. That's the same thing I was going to say about the 5 or the 6-man rotation. I might, you know, I think sometimes, well, you know, if I really would have gone 8 or 9, developed a bench, would have been fresher in the end, maybe. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't have worked either. You know, by sticking with these guys, maybe that's why we were so successful. So I don't know about the game changing. I think over the years, coaches have got more involved. They go to more clinics. They do more. They do different things to you. You know, they'll change defenses, they'll change offenses, and things of that nature. But I think it's the three-point shot that changed a lot of things in my mind.
Were you one of those coaches when they first talked about the three-point shot that was a real traditionalist and said, man, I don't really know about this, I don't like this, but now you've warmed to the idea and your thinking has evolved?
Well, you know, I was a traditionalist. I would have said, don't tamper with the game. There's nothing wrong with the game. Why are we tampering with the game? You know, why are we going to the three-point shot? And, you know, then, of course, when you get the three-point shot, I think it's this way. You know, last year I loved the three-point shot. This year we could do without it because we don't shoot it.
I want to ask you a couple more questions. We got a few more minutes to go here. A couple of weeks ago I had Mitch Gillum on and talked about how long he was going to be back this time over at Admiral King. You've been around a long time. How long is Jim Lawhead going to continue to pace the sidelines for the Spartans? You seem re-energized this year, like you're really enjoying it and you'll keep going for a while.
as I said, this club going into this year, you know, I really thought I'm excited about this year. You know, I want to know how Matt and I can do together, number one, and I want to know how this club can do after losing all 5 starters.
Right.
I want to know what we can do in terms of developing a basketball team from basically scratch. And I'll tell you what, after 2 or 3 scrimmages, I really was second guessing myself because we didn't look very good. But no, I don't, to answer your question, how long, I don't know. As long as I enjoy doing it, I'll continue to coach.
And it's been how many years?
This is the 32nd year as a head coach.
As a head
I started,
coach.
see, I was one of those fortunate or unfortunate, depending on you look at it. The first year in coaching, I was a head coach. You know, at St. Mary's, I just came back from the Army and got a history job, and George Simonovich had left to go to Amherst, and they needed a basketball coach, and I got it by default, actually. You know, and been doing it ever since.
500 wins a reasonable goal. Where do you stand right now? 440, 450 something?
447 going in. So
okay. So going into this year.
Right.
So 463.
463.
So you're shooting for the big 500.
I don't know that it's. I don't know that it's. You put a number on it. I really don't. I don't think that way. You know, you start saying, well, okay, we're going to go for 500, and then you start adding them up and going, well, what would it take to win 600? You know, I'd be trying to whistle on the bench. I don't know if I could. I don't want to stay that long. So no, I'll just say that I'm going to keep doing it as long as I enjoy doing it. And right now, I enjoy doing it. And let's face it, with Al and Ron and some of our Chris and some of our kids coming back, and our JV freshman program looking pretty good. We've got a couple of good kids in our junior high. Who knows?
I was just going to say, you know, aside from this year's success, there's some bright teams ahead because, as you mentioned, Al and Ron are only juniors. Chris is a sophomore, I believe. So you've got some people that are ready to step in. I mean, certainly not looking ahead to next year already, but obviously there's some bright things to come.
Right. You know, I think our program is in good stead, you know, in terms of kids that want to play and the coaches that want to work. Our coaches right through the program work really hard with Matt, and Matt's got a helper. I'd like to mention Mark Mihal helps him, and he started about 6 years ago with our first junior high team that my son Jason played on. And then we've got Dave Thomas and Bart Hobart on the freshman level. Bart, of course, also helps us on the varsity level. And Ray Mariner, Joe Ramaklis down in our junior high. We have 2 junior high teams in the CYO league. So we have this this 8-man family staff that really works hard and works together and really loves the game. So you know, I'm pleased and proud to where our program is right now, Jim, and where it's going.
Absolutely. Jim, a pleasure having you on the show. As I mentioned, it's been a few years, but it's nice to have you make your debut on this one, and again, continued success the rest of the season, although as the folks watch it, the season will have wound down, but obviously, best of luck come tournament time, and here's hoping you go a long way down that tournament trail. Many thanks.
You. My pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me on.
No problem. My guest this week on Sports Scene has been the head coach of the Lorain Catholic basketball boys team. That's Jim Lawhead. Again, just a tremendous season so far. If you get a chance within the next week or so, head on over to Elyria High School and watch them in action in district or sectional play. I should say sectional and district play, and you'll get a real entertaining form of basketball. We thank you much for tuning in here on WLCS TV, and we'll see you next week. So long, everybody.
WLCS TV 6, Lorain.